Good morning, everybody. I will wait formally another couple of minutes before we start the program of today's session to allow to all participants to be connected. I see that the numbers are growing as we speak in the participants box. Thanks for your patience. Good morning again, and welcome to this EBA webinar, Biomethane Scale-Up in Figures, Mapping New Plans and Investments Across Europe. This is the fourth of a series of webinars that we have been organizing with the European Biogas Association called Dig Deep, providing details and perspective on biogases. My name is Giulia Cancian. I'm the Secretary General of the European Biogas Association, and I will be this session moderator. So at EBA, we strongly believe that reliable data are crucial for instilling confidence in the biomethane sector and also to formulate sound and evidence-based policies. This is why every year, our technical team, together with partners and experts at European level, gathers the most recent market intelligence. This morning, we will officially launch the most recent data gathering on biomethane production facilities, which are in operation at the moment. But also, we will give you an idea of the private investments that are currently driving the growth and that will drive the growth towards 2030. So let's dive into the topic. This is the agenda for today's webinar, and this is what we have prepared for you. So the webinar today will be divided into parts. So after hearing from the European Commission, we will hear a forecast of the near future based on Biomethane Investment Outlook, and then also from NG, one of our members, who will tell us more about their ambitions and their expanding biomethane portfolio. After, we will analyze the most recent data on biomethane development, and we will also launch the new European Biomethane Map, quite literally putting on the map the new plants that entered into operation since our last edition that we launched in spring 2023. We will also hear from our partner on this project, Gas Infrastructure Europe. Both sessions will have their own Q&A sessions, so you will be able to ask clarifications during the program. But before we listen to our speakers for today, I will give you also a couple of housekeeping notes. So first of all, more than 1,100 people registered to today's webinar, coming from a very wide array of organizations, public institutions, and companies. This is a bit of a new record for this series of webinars, and we would like to thank you all for your interest and for your participation. So we welcome your question, and please post them in the Q&A box that is at the bottom of the screen, and we will try our very best to address them all during the Q&A sessions. And finally, let me reassure you, all the slides and the data that we will be presenting today will be available after the webinar, and we will be sent to you. And now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to the keynote speaker of today. Welcome, Biljana Kulisic. Biljana is a policy officer in DG Ener, the unit C2 on decarbonisation and the sustainability of energy resources. And Biljana is a very big expert in bioenergy. So welcome, Biljana.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and thank you for having me today in this, I would say, important event, because what it gives us a sneak peek in what is happening in the future, because the official statistics are delayed. So it's very encouraging to hear all these numbers, and I had privilege to look at the numbers before. So I'm really enthusiastic about what is happening in the field of biomethane. And thank you for inviting me to open this webinar, where the European Biogas Association, together with Gas Infrastructure Europe, presents biomethane scale-up in figures. As one would say, a picture tells 1,000 words. That is, it's lovely. It's really lovely to see biomethane plants mushrooming across Europe, but also it tells this picture that there is lots to be done to bring all the member states on board, to include them, to include their sustainable biogas and biomethane potential into their decarbonisation plans. However, I dare to say with this outlook that shows really impressive figures from one year to another, that we have to do, it must have been that we are doing something right, because the work that we have been invested, it starts bearing the fruits. It's a modest first harvest, I would say, the starting only, but let's see if we can accelerate and make it more fruitful even. I'm happy to witness this growth of biomethane production in the EU, and I'm also happy to be part of it. It is so this map gives this special layer on statistics, because it gives us this insight on not only on numbers but also on spatial distribution of biomethane plants, that also indicates where we can react and act, especially in terms of grid connection, in terms of policy enhancement in certain areas, and where are actually good practices happening, because those that are moving faster than the others, there should be indicator of good practice to share. The official statistics, as I said before, show lower numbers that you will see today, but they are also having a time delay. So we have the statistics for 2022, and I am happy to see the real-time statistics now. What I can tell you from our side, that we have finalized the bilateral talks with all member states on the topic of the national energy climate plans. We expect the new ones to arrive by summertime, and at this moment we have 5, so we cannot give any assumptions how much of biomethane is inside. We did have communicated cumulative 30 to 32 BCM of biogas and biomethane target in the drafts of national energy climate plans. It was impossible to distinguish what capacity has been dedicated straight to biogas for CHPs and what is dedicated to biomethane. But for the first time in 2022, we see in our official statistics that we have the transformation input of biogas is stable, but when we look at the quality, we see that the biomethane injected to the grid has been grown on the expense of biomethane used for electricity. So this is for the first time that we see such a trend. That's all positive. We still have in 2022 statistics, now we will see something different. We have 13 member states producing actually biomethane, and 7 of member states actually using biomethane in transport. We would like to see of that more, and that's why I'm happy about this report today. But what we are not relaxing. We are planning to support this growth with improved policy and governance. So update of Annex 6 is on the way. So you would be familiar that Annex 6 is the metrics how we measure the greenhouse gas emission thresholds to have the sustainability and greenhouse gas emission savings criteria from Article 29 calculated. So that is coming. The methodology is going to be a little bit more user-friendly, but what is very important is that we record fugitive emissions of biogas and biomethane production. And if we implement the best practice measures, we would have 4 to 20%, depending on the biogas, biomethane plant design, more of biomethane produced from the same feedstock. And that is also good for the investors, it's good for the economic operators, and it is good for the climate. And this is what we have promised on the COP28. So more is to follow. I now give the floor to Miche De Corte, Technical Director of European Biogas Association, and looking forward for this insight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Biljana, for this keynote speech. We will move now to the presentation of our second EBA Investment Outlook on biomethane. Before we dive into the figures, I want to say some words on our methodology and objectives that we have with this publication. So our investment outlook is a yearly monitoring of the biomethane investments in Europe. The publication was published earlier in June, but today we want to spend a bit more time on discussing and elaborating on the results. So why do we do it? Because we want to identify the market trends and look into the near future of our sector. We also, with this exercise, we can also find certain drivers and gaps in terms of biomethane investments. The figures that we are presenting today are based on replies of 26 investors and project developers. Then we move to the key takeaways in terms of numbers from our investment outlook. So 27 billion euros have been earmarked to be invested in biomethane. This is, let's say, this is the total volume that we managed to identify as EBA. These investments will result in an added biomethane capacity, of course, on top of the current production in Europe by 2030 of 6.3 BCM per year. The 26 replies that we have also have a combined, let's say, number of new plants of 950 to enter operation in the next 5 years. And the third, let's say, key takeaway is that Denmark, Poland, and Italy are at the moment the top countries for plant investments in biomethane. Now we will, in the further slides, we will have a more granularity of the figures. So first, on this next graph, you see the geographical distribution of the plant investments in biomethane. So you see the top countries are indeed Denmark, Poland, and Italy, with Denmark 3.6 billion euros, Poland 3.4 billion euros, Italy 2.4, but also United Kingdom and France are among the top countries to invest in biomethane. It must be noted, however, that we have another 4.5 billion euro that we know that will be invested in Europe in biomethane, but that the final destination is still to be identified. Furthermore, we have 1.5 billion euro that is to be invested by European countries in biomethane, but European companies in biomethane, but in non-European countries. Then the next key point is that these investments will contribute to 6.3 BCM per year of added biomethane capacity in Europe by 2030. You see here the division in the time frame. So we used to or we separated our outlook into different time frames. So we have the period from 2024 to 2026. And then the period from 2027 to 2030. So we see in the first period, we will have an added capacity of 3.1 BCM. For this, 10.5 billion of euros are invested. We have an addition of 3.2 BCM in the next time frame from 27 to 2030. And this will, let's say, use an investment volume of 14 billion euros. So this means in total, indeed, by 2030, we have 6.3 BCM of added biomethane capacity. We identified another 0.6 BCM or 2.1 billion euro that is either investments that are in non-European countries or that are beyond 2030 or yet to be specified. So continuing further, we also identified important newcomers in the European biomethane market. So of course, we have a lot of countries who are already advanced in their biomethane market and already have good production and plants already there. These countries are also growing, but we see that let's say new markets in Europe, which are Poland, Spain, Portugal, and Ireland. So actually, this table is also included in our investment outlook. You can check it on our website. So we have a further granularity in terms of countries with the investment volume and the foreseen capacity. So Denmark, Italy, and Poland have the highest foreseen added capacity. And then we see Poland, Spain, Portugal, and Ireland as important new markets for Europe. Furthermore, we have again this 4.5 billion euros, which corresponds to almost 9 terawatt-hours per year of capacity that is yet to be allocated to a certain country. Continuing on the data, we also made, let's say, a division in what are the type of investments that we are expecting. And the result is that 78% of the investments are for greenfield biomethane plants. So this means these are new biomethane plants. This corresponds to 20.9 billion euros of investments. And then we have another almost 1 billion euros reserved for brownfields. And this is mainly going to the conversion of biogas CHP plants to biomethane plants. Finally, we have 0.7 billion euros that are going to mergers and acquisitions in the field of biomethane. This was a lot of data. I will close here my presentation and let's further process and give the word to Julia.
Thank you, Mieke, for showing us a little bit on the future and what is piling up in terms of investments. We will come back. I see that a lot of questions are also piling up in the chat box. And I welcome our next speaker, Annette Kroll. Annette is the head of regulation and advocacy at ENGIE Renewable Gas Business Unit, which cover ENGIE biomethane activities in 8 European countries. Annette also represents ENGIE's, of course, in the European Biogas Association, but also in the Biomethane Industrial Partnership. And she definitely has a long track record in renewable energy sector, and notably in European and public affairs. So Annette, you can take the floor now.
Yeah, thank you, Julia, for this nice introduction. And thanks a lot to EBA for having me today. Good morning, everyone. So, yeah, can you show the first slide, please? So this is the challenge. We want to be at 35 BCM in 2030. And Mieke has just shown us that we are on track, or there are promising figures, promising investment, but it also shows that we are not at all there yet, and we really need to accelerate. Some of you might think that those 35 BCM are not serious because it's not a binding target. Well, we think that we must be very serious about this target, because let's not forget, Europe has set itself binding targets to develop renewable energy and to decarbonize, and biomethane has to make as an important contribution to these targets. Also, Europe wants to become less dependent from fossil fuel imports. And we also want to promote a circular economy. We want to promote rural development. And with developing biomethane, you get all that. So that's why I'm very happy to be here today and explain to you in the next minutes how ENGIE is contributing to the European biomethane development targets, and what are the barriers that we see on the way towards 35 BCM and beyond. So this is where we are today. We have a good starting position. We are a major player in biomethane in France, and we have acquired assets recently in the UK and in the Netherlands. You can see the numbers on the slide. So our total production capacity adds up to more than 1 terawatt hour per year in total, spread over those 3 countries. But we have very high ambitions to accelerate our growth. So we want to reach 10 terawatt hour production capacity by 2030. It actually means that we need to grow our capacity tenfold. And we want to do this in 8 European countries that you see on this map here. And to show that we are serious about it, we have committed a 3 billion investment by 2030 to achieve these targets. We also want to grow in our biomethane trading activities. So we don't only want to be a major producer, but also a major off-taker of biomethane with a target of trading 30 terawatt hours of biomethane by 2030. So why are we doing this? We are convinced that biomethane will make a substantial contribution to the energy transition. We believe very strongly in the alliance of electrons and molecules. So electrification is underway and it's accelerating, and that's a good thing. But there will be demand that is difficult to electrify, and there will be barriers to electrification that are linked to insufficient or slower development of electricity power, of the electricity grid, of electricity infrastructures. And that is where biomethane comes in, and that is where molecules are complementing electrons. And at ENGIE, we also think that, or we want to give priority to biomethane that is injected in the gas grid, because this is where it has most value and where it has its most versatile use, where it can be used to decarbonize all natural gas uses in industry, heating, transport, power generation. So yeah, we want to do this sustainably and in close partnership with our local stakeholders. We cannot succeed our projects without closely involving the local communities and closely involving our partners from the very beginning. The population, the local population, the local authorities, the farmers' ecosystem, the local industrials. We work very closely with all these stakeholders. And we try to convince them from the beginning about the multiple services and the multiple benefits that biomethane projects are bringing to their communities. And we especially work with farmers to make sure that we source the most sustainable feedstock and have a circular model where the nutrients are returned to the soil after through the digestate. So we need to increase tenfold. It's not going to be a walk in the park, and we have many barriers in front of us. And those are not only barriers for ENGIE's activities, those are barriers for the whole sector. Our sector is heavily dependent on policy and a favorable regulatory framework. And we see countries in Europe that have a mature framework and that have targets and strategies and that give good visibility to biomethane project developers, but not all of them have that. Also, I think the elephant in the room is the demand for green gas, demand for biomethane. It is clearly there. We see this. We have our customers. They are looking for solutions to decarbonize their gas demand, and they're very interested in biomethane. Many of them are driven by voluntary decarbonization targets, so targets that they have set themselves under schemes like SBTi and using the GHG protocol. But at this stage, there is quite some uncertainty around how biomethane is actually recognized under these mechanisms. And then there's also, let's say, a gap in the willingness to pay more than what customers are paying today for fossil solutions. There are also compliance markets like the EU ETS or transport quotas or other quotas. which can give good signals, but often the price signal is still not high enough, or those mechanisms do not provide a long enough visibility to really trigger the investment in new biomethane activities. The feedstocks, we have good potential. We have several studies that show that there's a good potential, but those need to be mobilized. Their sustainability needs to be recognized. In some cases, mobilizing those feedstocks requires a change of practices, of agricultural practices. For instance, growing intermediate crops between two main crops, or changing waste collection practices. And then we have the externalities and the byproducts of biomethane production. Externalities, it's already in the word, it's difficult to monetize. And then byproducts, I mean the biogenic CO2 and the digestate. If we, or where we can get the digestate out of its waste status, and where we can really valorize it on the market, and where we can have a business case for the biogenic CO2 and sell it with a, capture it and sell it with a premium because it's biogenic. In that case, this improves our business case, and this can reduce the euro per megawatt hour that customers would need to pay for the biomethane. So that's why it's really important to be able to valorize those byproducts. And then there's public acceptance, of course. Like many other renewable and infrastructure projects, also biomethane projects are facing the NIMBY, not in my backyard attitude. So this is also something we need to work on. So yeah, there's work to do, and my call for action is let's work on this together. Let's work together to promote the solution. Let's convince our governments to put in place targets for 2030, targets beyond 2030, and strategies, and put in place the right incentives for decarbonization and biomethane development. This can include some kind of renewable gas quotas, not only in transport. Let's work further to facilitate permitting. We have had, Europe has helped us on this. So with the Renewable Energy Directive and the gas package, there are some good rules on the way. Now this needs to be implemented on national level. So now the ball is with the national governments to implement that on national and local levels. On the feedstocks, we need to mobilize them. We need to recognize their sustainability. I want to give the example of the recent revision of RED Annex 9, which includes intermediate crops, but mainly for targeting towards aviation fuels. This is not a good signal for biomethane production. We need to recognize intermediate crops more widely, and we need to help farmers to change practices and implement such cropping. Perhaps the common agricultural policy could help there. And then we need to improve and complete the framework for the valorization of byproducts. It's very complex today for digestate to make it a product, actually. And for biogenic CO2, we need certification, and we need incentives to differentiate between fossil and bio character of the CO2. And then my last point, but it's really a point that is very important, is the European market. We have to create a European market for biomethane. We have to enable the trade of biomethane also across borders. Today, there's a patchwork of rules, of different certificates. Some member states have registries, others don't. We count very much on the union database to help and harmonize this. But in some cases, there is also a lack of political willingness, actually, to open the domestic markets to imports and exports. So the European market is really important to accelerate biomethane development and also help those countries with the lower potential to benefit from green gas and have green gas solution as well. So again, removing those barriers requires joint efforts, and let's work together and do them the most so we can come as close as possible to the 35 BCM target. We really need biomethane because electrification, hydrogen alone will not do the job. We need green gases, molecules that are complementary, and we need to leverage all the solutions that are out there. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Annette, also for touching upon the inclusive role of biomethane and the cooperation with the local community, the return on investment that biomethane can give to local communities, farmers, and the solutions that we can offer. But also thank you for this call for action, because we really need to work together in the next years, and also in face of the new legislature, to make sure that we can achieve a really good business environment to flourish and continue growing. So now we have the possibility to address the many questions that we have received. Mika, show your face. I think that we can start with a question directly from you that came actually within the chat, but I think it's quite interesting indeed. So in the case of Poland, that seems to be one of the main players for investment for the future. Why there is 1 billion of investment more and 1 terawatt-hour of biomethane less?
Yes, thank you for the question. So indeed, you can see So indeed, apologies for this. So indeed, you can see when you compare the investment volume in our data on the country level with the added or the anticipated capacity, there is no one-to-one relation. And the reason is that our data is has a quite high granularity, so it means that the capex that is needed to implement this capacity is dependent on the country or the company doing the investment. So it also means that depending on the country or depending on the type of plants, you might have a different capex requirement. So this is also why you can see that you will not find this this one-to-one relation with the investment volume and the added capacity.
Thanks, Mika. Another question also a bit on the methodologies and on the data. Are we covering only biomethane with this exercise, or also biogas?
In our questionnaire that we used, we indeed also included biogas CHPs, but we did see that really the biggest part of the investments is going to biomethane, and the figures that we published also only include biomethane.
Thanks indeed. Isaac Seto asks also, which countries do you see the most CHP upgrades, so brownfield investments taking place?
Okay, thank you for this question. To be honest, for this I need to check more in details or data. I can give you the reply afterwards. There are certain countries in Europe that have policies in place that promote, let's say, this conversion from biogas CHPs to biomethane. And I'm thinking, for example, of Austria, Estonia, and some others as well.
All right, another question also on the methodology. What is the relation between terawatt-hour and billion cubic meters of biomethane that you're using here?
For the conversion of terawatt hours to BCM, we use a conversion of 10.6 kilowatt hours per cubic meter of biomethane. With this, I would also like to, let's say, put forward our energy converter that we also recently published on the EBA website, and where we also use the conversion that we generally use in EBA databases and calculations.
Thank you. Annette, I see that you have also received quite some questions within the chat. One is asking why between the countries in which NG is focusing at the moment, there's no Portugal, or is this something that you're considering for the future?
So yeah, thanks for the question. I feel a bit of disappointment behind this. The way we chose the countries is basically based on a couple of factors. So on the one hand, we took countries with large potential. We also took countries that had a rather mature regulatory framework. It's not the case for all the countries at the end, but for most of them. And we are also interested in countries that have already an energy presence, so where the group is already present with other activities. And this is also interesting because on our own, we also need biomethane to decarbonize our own activities, actually. So it's for our clients, but it's also for our own activities to decarbonize. And that's why Portugal was not on the first list, but I don't exclude anything for the future.
Thanks, Annette. So I see that I have received quite some political questions that I would like to redirect to you. I will summarize a couple that I see on the chat. So we are standing in I would say, a milestone period for European politics at the moment, and we are seeing a change of the legislature. The parliament is a little bit different from what it was before. So what are the expectations of NG for the next legislature, and what is in your wish list to make sure that you can actually top your ambitions for biomethane development?
Yeah, so I think regarding the political situation, it's still a bit too early to understand where things will go. And actually, I'm speaking here about both Europe and the French level, which is our core market. We think that so. In the French election campaign, there has been some critical debates about renewables, but not about biomethane. So biomethane was not a controversial topic on the French level, and on European level, I think EBA has also followed up on this. There is still quite some support for biomethane across the different parties. So we are not pessimistic about this. Our wish list, what I think will happen definitely is that the cost of green alternatives and the cost of the energy transition will be more on the agenda, and the question of affordability for consumers and competitiveness of European companies. But again, biomethane can be a solution there. Biomethane also makes us less dependent on imports, so biomethane can make a good contribution there. On our wish list, I think it's what I put on the last slide. We need to have visibility. We want to have targets beyond 2030, because 2030 is basically tomorrow, and they need to be underpinned by effective mechanisms. So in France, for instance, we are debating a quota, a renewable gas incorporation scheme. We see a similar scheme that might be introduced in the Netherlands. So such kind of schemes can be very relevant to promote biomethane.
Thank you. Coming back to Mike, in terms of the research, again, I will try to summarize a couple of questions. We have at the moment 50 in the box, so we'll do our best to address them all. There is 4.5 billion that has not been dedicated. Mats Ekelund asks who sits on this fund, but I see also other questions that are asking directly whether we can identify the companies or exactly who is doing this. So I think that it would be useful to give a bit of a methodological note on the aggregation that we have chosen to give.
Okay, thank you for the question. So maybe to start with the second one. So we have indeed 26 investors and project developers, which mainly come from our EBA members. We are choosing not to disclose this list, and the reason is the following: that because we publish aggregated data and we combine, let's say, the disaggregated information from different companies, it allows us to have more granularity in the data, so we can publish the combined figures basically. Second, the 4.5 billion euros, it's a combination of the investments by companies that let's say are reserved for biomethane, but the country is not yet decided, which also makes sense because we are speaking of a time frame of 5 to 6 years. So it makes sense that certain volumes of investments are already decided where it will go to, but for others it keeps the doors open to use them where it makes more sense.
Thank you. So I have another question here from Pablo Garcia Escribano. He asks, what are the reasons that made you identify Portugal and Ireland as important newcomers, while there are other countries with higher investments volumes and capacity?
Yes, thank you for this. So the 4 countries I selected, basically I compared the volume of the investments compared to what is the current market situation. So in the countries that are highlighted, there are either none, such as in Poland, or only few biomethane plants. So basically the investments that you see in those 4 countries are quite high compared to the current biomethane situation.
Thank you. I will pass again to Annette for, we have time for another couple of questions maybe. Annette, in the final slide, you underline some gray areas in which we can really work to make sure that we can advance with our sector. And one of them was the voluntary compliance market. And I see from the questions here regarding the greenhouse gas protocol acceptance. So I was wondering whether you would like to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I think on the recognition of biomethane in the greenhouse gas protocol, there's a bit of uncertainty because the GHG protocol as such, and also the target setting mechanisms, play the ball back to the auditors and say the way biomethane can be recognized, it will be up to the auditors to decide. So it creates an uncertain situation. We understand that in practice, biomethane is recognized on the basis of guarantees of origin, but of course, we need to have a clearer rule on that, and there is a lot of work going on where EBA is also involved in discussions to have a clear guidance on biomethane in the near future. And we are quite convinced and optimistic that it will be a guidance that will recognize a market-based approach for biomethane based on certificates. Whether it's a guarantee of origin or a POS or both in the future, we don't know yet. But it just would be such a big bang if biomethane is no longer recognized on a market-based approach. It's difficult to imagine. So it's very important that this market-based approach will come, and we expect it to come.
Thank you, Annette. We will certainly continue to work on this and to make sure that we give the right level of priority and attention to this kind of issue. Mike, just jumping on a completely different subject, I see some questions piling up on biowaste. So I see a question coming in from our colleagues from Municipal Waste Europe, Estefania Jimenez Puerta. Do you have figures on the potential of separately collected biowaste from household as feedstock for the production of biomethane? How do you think this potential could be unveiled?
Okay, thank you again for the question. So yes, we have calculations on this potential. We published a detailed study on this at the end of April this year, which was a study that was done by Guidehouse. So there we looked into the different feedstocks that can contribute to producing biomethane and to the total potential. So municipal waste is certainly an important part of that. Second, when we look into our data on where new biomethane plants are coming, we also see an important part of biomethane of the new plants producing from municipal waste. And this is also, what is interesting there is that you can see a focus in certain countries. For example, in Italy, we see a clear choice to produce biomethane from municipal waste. And this also shows that this potential can also be unlocked in other countries. Specifically for the exercise of the investment outlook, I can share that we did not investigate the granularity on the, let's say, on the feedstock level of the investments.
Thanks, Mieke. I see that at the moment we have over 62 questions that are still open in the box. So I would invite Annette and Mieke to type in some answer if they want to during the remaining time. And I think that we can wrap up this Q&A session at this moment, and we can pass to the second session of today. So now we are diving into the biomethane map. Today is the day of the launch. We are looking at the last year of development. We have heard already from Liliana, numbers are encouraging, but I would invite right away Anastasia Agapova, the technical and project officer of the European Biogas Association, but also the person that was behind the compilation of our brand new digital map, to come and to show her face and to explain us what is the methodology that we had beyond, what is the capacity that came online in the past year, and to guide us also through what are the major trends in terms of injections and etc. for the biomethane sector. Anastasia, the floor is yours. We are all ears.
Thank you, thank you. Hi, everyone. So today I would like to share with you the new EBA European Biomethane Map 2024. So this was a big undertaking for us because this year it's actually interactive map, because we have been publishing before a printed version and we compiled the database. But this year, besides doing the database, we actually did this product. You can find it on EBA website. You can see the link on the slide down below. And there are several features first I'd like to explain to you before I proceed to statistics. So first of all, you can see several filters here. So it's a publicly available map. You can all go and check it out. So first of all, you can go to country level. So you can choose any country that we collected the data on and look at all the plants. And also you will see number of plants per country. The second filter you have is a start of operation. So you will be able to choose multiple years, and both filters can be applied simultaneously. So both the country and the year. And again, you will see the amount of countries per selected filter. You can zoom in even further and go to the plant level. And there you will see the information that is again publicly available. It's the country, it's the city, it's the start of operation. So this is how the map works, and please feel free to check it out. But let's talk about statistics now. This is the database that we compiled. It's not 100% all the plants that are in Europe. However, it's a very comprehensive database. We have identified the total installed capacity of 6.4 BCM. So I have to stress here, this is the installed capacity, this is not the production volumes. So this is the total possibility of European countries to produce biomethane. And we have compared this data with our previous EBA Biomethane Map of 2022. So again, to point here, I'm not comparing the year 2022 and year 2024. It's the two iteration of the map. And we have seen a 32% growth between these two data points, which we really, really like to see. So who are the top producers who are capable of producing the most. In a previous map, the top countries were Germany, United Kingdom, France, Denmark, and Sweden. So this year, we see Germany and France, United Kingdom, Italy, and Denmark. So the biggest changes happened in France. They have built many plants, and so the installed capacity has grew quite significantly. We still see Germany on top place. We still see United Kingdom in the top 3. The biggest difference happened in Italy. They actually have increased their installed capacity 3-fold in the last year and a half. Denmark is still in the top 5. What are distribution between EU 27 and non-EU countries? So the installed capacity of EU 27 countries is 5.2 BCM. And non-EU countries is 1.2. So the non-EU countries that we keep in our database is, of course, United Kingdom, Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, and starting from this year, Ukraine as well. So the distribution is around 80-20. So 80% of the capacity is EU 27, and around 20% capacity is in non-EU countries. In our previous map, the numbers were 3.8 for EU 27, and 1 BCM for non-EU countries. So we have seen a growth of 37% for EU 27 and 20% growth for non-EU countries. In terms of number of plants, so the total number of plants that we were able to record is 1,548. In our last map, we had 1,174. So we have, again, 32% growth. And this is coincidental with the capacity, even though it shouldn't be like that. Again, the top countries that have plants are not necessarily the ones that are the biggest producers. Of course, in the top 3, we still see France, Germany, United Kingdom. However, in this case, previously Sweden and Netherlands were in the top 5. This year, again, we have Italy, that in terms of plants, they actually increased 4 times. In terms of distribution, again, non-EU or EU 27 countries, we have 1,364 plants in EU 27, and we have 184 plants in non-EU countries. Here, the distribution is slightly different, so we definitely have more plants in EU 27, but the non-EU countries has bigger capacity. And mostly it comes from United Kingdom because they, on average, have larger plant sizes. In 2022 edition of the map, we had 1,023 plants in EU 27 and 151 plants in non-EU countries. So for EU 27, it's a 33% growth, and for non-EU countries, it's 22% growth. Looking at geographical distribution, so this is the number of plants per country. Again, France stands out a lot. We can see Germany and Italy. Here, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the average plant size. So for all European plants that we collected, the average size is 468 cubic meter per hour capacity. However, this range is actually really wide. So there are countries like Finland and Switzerland. On average, they have the smallest plant sizes, so around 150 cubic meter per hour. Then we have France, which has an enormous amount of plants, but their plants on average do not exceed 200 cubic meter per hour. Then Germany and Italy both are big producers in terms of amount of plants and the plant sizes, so they are higher than average. For Germany, it's around 600 cubic meter per hour, and for Italy, it's more than 700 cubic meter per hour. So they have been building a lot, but the plant size is also really large. And then we have countries like Denmark and UK. Their average plant sizes is huge. For UK, it's 1,000 cubic meter per hour as an average plant. And for Denmark is 1,400 cubic meter per hour. That's why Denmark, even though they have 58 plants, they are in the top 5 producers in Europe. So the biggest growth we have seen in these 2 data sets happened again in Italy. It's over 200% growth in capacity. In France, of course, it's 51. So in terms of amount of plants, much more, but the capacity is 51. And actually the Netherlands, even though they have not built that many new plants, but again, they were larger sizes. a little bit about historical distribution as well. So this is the graph that shows number of new plants built every single year. And this is adjusted to plants that are still operational. So this is not the number that has been built historically every single year, but the ones that still produce. And it's interesting to see the trend here. Of course, we see number of plants growing after 2008. And then we see a huge increase after 2018. And what happened in 2018, RED II was adopted. And this upward trend still continues. And it was continuing despite the disruption in supply chains in 2020 and 2022 because of the pandemic and the war. In 2023, 246 plants were built. And we have identified 56 new plants in the first quarter of 2024. This is not to say that just 58 plants were built. It's the ones that we get information about. Again, some countries, data collection happens a different time of the year. So, but at least it's 56. So we are expecting quite a few plants to be built in 2024. We have received reports on new projects. So hopefully we'd see at least the same amount as in 2023, but hopefully even more. Lastly, I would like to share with you this map. This is also EBA Biomethane Map 2024, but this is the members-only edition. It has the same underlying database in terms of number of plants and their location. However, we have additional information like grid connection type, product, production capacity, and upgrading technology. So here you can filter this, again, for all of these parameters. And when you roll over a plant, you will see this information again. This is much more than in the publicly available map. And also member received an analytical report with statistics for all of these parameters as well. Lastly, I actually would like to thank the data contributors. So these are national biogas associations, governmental agencies, and private companies that help with the data collection on the country level. And without them, this map and this database would not happen. So big thank you to them.
And thank you, Anastasia, for the work that you have manually done on this, and for the presentation that gives us also the idea of how the sector is evolving and what we can maybe expect for the future. But now we hear also from our last speaker of the day, which is our partner. We cooperate a lot with GIE, Gas Infrastructure Europe, and we have the pleasure of having with us today Pierre Duviezard, that will talk to us about the infrastructure that is facilitating biomethane growth. This is actually a very important part of the MAP exercise, knowing whether the injections are going up and whether we can actually use at least the infrastructure that is available in Europe. So Pierre, thank you for being with us today. You are GIE Biomethane Area Sponsor since January 2024, Executive Vice President of GIE since September 1st, 2018, and you work with the GRT Gas, where you are Deputy Managing Director. So please run us through your presentation.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you for welcoming me. Maybe just to start, a few words about GIE. And I think we have a map of GIE to start. So you'll see that we are about 70 industrial actors within GIE, quite spread around Europe, as you see on the map. And we operate either underground storages, import terminals, or transmission pipelines. And all of these infrastructures are, of course, well interconnected. So they allow customers to have access to energy, and we contribute to our security of supply. Within GIE, as you've mentioned, Julia, we have a fruitful collaboration with EBA, and it is for us and for me very important to be present this morning with you today. And the map that Anastasia has just presented is an illustration of this collaboration. It's its 5th edition. And what I will also highlight is what Biljana said in her introductory word, that it is very positive to see that these figures are growing from one map to another. Maybe we can, okay. So, and for my presentation today, there was one key message, is that biomethane is an efficient solution for today, and that gas infrastructures are here to bolster its development. And I will try to illustrate my message with three items. First is the fast and cost-effective match between biomethane and gas infrastructure. Two, I will come into some benefits and go into some concrete projects. And to end my presentation, mention some policy levers to go faster and to bring the green transmission and biomethane to the next level. So a green solution for today, and indeed maybe we can stay there for the time being. Yeah, and a green okay, perfect. Every word is important. Green solution, and today, as you can imagine, and indeed to succeed in developing a solution in terms of renewable energy, whether it's gas or electricity, we have to consider the full value chain, the infrastructure. And if I use another word, the logistics. Which is at the center of this value chain, is a clear condition for success. Let me try to say it another way. Without an efficient logistic, a producer cannot be guaranteed that he or she will have the resilient and the reliable outlet for his production, and that he cannot be sure that he'll be able to sell it, and probably he won't be able to finance his project. And we will face the similar issues on the consumer side. So logistics is really key. And for energy, the logistic is not only a point-to-point issue. A producer will want to inject its production over time as it is produced, and of course try to avoid curtailment. And a consumer needs to have access to energy when he needs it, but often he has quite a limited visibility and previsibility on the time when you'll need this access to energy. So gas infrastructure operators, we offer two kinds of solutions to solve this modulation issue. First is through a dynamic way to operate our networks. And this is clearly something that we are developing today. The idea is to benefit from the natural flexibilities offered on one side by the size of our network, on the other one, by the compressibility of gas. And the second solution is, of course, underground storage, which is key and brings an efficient solution to the modulation of production and consumption that is really central for seasonal management of modulation. So if we apply this principle to biomethane, which has the same characteristic as natural gas, it can be easily injected into this gas infrastructure, as these infrastructures are quite extended geographically. More precisely, biomethane can be injected either in the distribution network, the DSOs, and it will be very close to a lot of consumption, and it can be also injected in the transmission network, that it will have a direct access to storage. This brings, the fact that it can be easily injected into these networks, illustrate the fact that in the match between biomethane and network, it's a fast match that we have. But I will add that this injection in the gas networks requires very limited new investments. Unlike electricity, to accept renewable energy, gas infrastructure does not require significant new reinforcement that anyway, at the end of the day, would lead to a consumer price index. And this refers to the cost-effective dimension of this match between biomethane and networks. So to wrap this up, I would say that a good news is that the existing infrastructure can handle biomethane with limited investments and practically no impacts on consuming sectors. Two, we as network operators will have to provide bottom-up designs and more flexible network management and operation, but that is really accessible and we are working on it. And three, biomethane will allow each consumer to benefit from the most competitive gas and secure a steady energy supply. And so, the target really is that progressively biomethane will supplement or replace natural gas. And considering this shift, which we are trying to promote to green gases, our infrastructure will be able in 2050, because that's really a target, to accommodate 100% renewable gases in a very efficiently way. Maybe I can now move to the the next point and share with you some benefits and concrete projects. Just covered quite quickly that biomethane is fit for today's gas infrastructure, and that as the assets mainly exist, it avoids building new assets, gas or electricity assets, and allows a longer use of existing assets, so avoiding stranded assets, which I think should be a common goal for us. Biomethane is of course other assets, other benefits. It is of course green. It is produced locally, mainly from agriculture and food industry waste, which make it really a perfect example of circular economy, because you're using a waste and giving it another life through energy and being reinjected in the economy. And what is represented in this slide is that it can quite easily respond to end users' needs and help Europe to decarbonize in a fast and quite effective way. You have here an illustration of electricity, industry, data center, heating, transport. And here, if I put my GRT gas cap, I can share with you that when we see our current client, industry client, who want to find an efficient way to decarbonize, clearly biomethane is on the top of their agenda if they want to do it quickly and in an efficient way, if they want to reduce their CO2 footprint now. Of course, there are some challenges, and no, maybe we can just, of course, there are some challenges, and Annette has covered some of these challenges. I would also add that some of our clients say, but we want more biomethane quickly. One of the issues is also to be sure that biomethane will be available in sufficient quantity and as soon as possible. So maybe, yes, now let's move to the French situation. And I would say as a result of the, you can move to the next slides, please. And as a result of an alignment between the agriculture sector, the gas sector, and an effective support policy, which started around 10 years ago, anaerobic digestion has experienced a significant growth in recent years. That is being covered in the figures, but it's also on my slide. On the last figures, we now have a bit less than 700 sites production and accumulated injection capacity of more than 20 watt-hours per year. So you have on the map the different sites on the left side, and on the right side, the yearly and cumulative production which is connected to the grids. And if we move to the next slide, from an infrastructure perspective, what has been a key to this sector is the right to inject regulatory framework, which is in place since 2019 and provides a set of clear rules enabling a smooth networks adaptation. What are the basic rules? One, a joint TSO-DSO master planning exercise defining optimal network adaptations. And this is done with the regulator. So we are really trying to find the best solution to connect new production to our grids. These investments are included in the operator's regulated asset base. Of course, this is subject to an investment versus volume economic test, which is run with the regulator. And this defines specific rules to ensure network adaptation and biomethane capacities are synchronized. So as the result, this framework has enabled the development of 23 reverse flow compressors to date, and we have around 100 expected between now and 2030 to cope with the expected growth of biomethane capacities. Moreover, gas infrastructure operators, we can also take active part in the promotion of innovation to support the development of the biomethane value chain. This notably applies to the development of new gasification technologies, which would complement anaerobic digestion in the near future. And to end my presentation, I would just like to cover some few conditions or levers to foster this development. And these actions, I would say, are particularly needed. I mean, the figures presented today are positive, with an installed capacity of 6.4 BCM biomethane in Europe. The figures are promising. However, we really need to keep the pace and to increase the rhythm of our efforts if we want to achieve the REPowerEU targets of 30 BCM by 2030. The slides and previous presentation, particularly Annette, mentioned several levers to unlock the full potential of biomethane. Maybe I will just highlight three different ones than the one mentioned by Annette. The one is the right to injection, which we've seen in France was clearly very important to foster this development. So the new gas package, decarbonized gas and hydrogen package, includes key measures regarding the right to injections. They will be implemented in every EU member state. They have been inspired by what has been done in France. And the right to injection provisions include, on the one hand, the obligation for network operators to address connection requests. So we have an objective, and also it addresses time limits for grid operators to address these requests. The second lever that I would like to mention is the potential should be increased to support new biomethane production technology. And clearly I mentioned here, what I have in mind here is pyrogasification and hydrothermal gasification, and to promote them at an industrial level. We have seen with biomethane and with biomethane that we have reinforced the link between agriculture and energy, which has been benefit for agriculture and energy. Now with these new technologies, that it would reinforce the link between the waste industry, which has clearly tough challenges with the energy transition and energy. And so we are convinced that these links should be developed. And last but not least, of course, it's just the last point on the slide. We should keep our efforts in raising awareness of biomethane benefits towards society and end users. And this is, of course, one of the reasons and motivation of the webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pierre, indeed, for your presentation, for giving us a map within the map. So underlining the importance of planning on data and making sure that we can actually mobilize the resources that are present in the various geographic areas and within the communities. And at the same time, addressing the needed grid reinforcement to make sure that biomethane can be timely injected into the grid and can contribute to the greening of the grid itself. Now, without further ado, I think that we can pass to the second Q&A of the day. I see that you have been very active in the Q&A box. So I will start with the first questions that are there from Anastasia. And the first one is, I see it a couple of times. What about Poland, Anastasia?
Well, from what we know, at the moment, Poland does not have biomethane plants. But as Miki was saying in her previous presentation, there are investments in Poland. So we are expecting to map Poland in our next map.
Thank you. So you kept basically two answers within one. There's another one that was asking indeed if Poland will be included in the biomethane map, and the answer is yes. Hopefully very soon when we will see the new plants coming online. The second question that I see here is from Thomas Minter, and he's regarding the UK. So here, UK number of plants looks low at 119 in 2024, compared with approximately 700 according to UK industry data. Do you know why? Is it similar in the EU27?
Well, I would actually like to see the 700. Are they actually biomethane plants that produce from biomass and the feedstocks that we consider as well for the process? Because the data we received is from UK agency that deals with that. So of course the accuracy of the data is under preview of our UK data source, but I would not expect this not to be correct. Also, we have the statistics for previous years. Our previous map had around 117 plants and previously 114. So I would not expect the number suddenly in 1 year go to 700. So I'm not exactly sure what are these 700 plants.
Thank you, Anastasia. So probably the question was in general on biogas and biomethane plants, but we can also take it bilaterally and make sure that we align with the best knowledge that we have on the market. Now, I have a cluster of questions regarding average production and capacity ratio. Can you comment on that, where we are, and whether in the members-only analysis we have something regarding also country-based?
For members-only map, we have a map in the statistics that will show average land size for each country. So I shared with you some of the data, but this is sort of like a teaser. This is not what we provide for public map. This is for members only. So you have heard some of the numbers, but if you want to know more, please consider the members-only one.
Thank you. And now for Pierre, we have an anonymous attendee asking what the role does biomethane play in supporting sector integration?
Yes, of course. Well, electrification, it's on its way. And I mean, even for ourselves, our own process, we're thinking of electrification of some processes. So, I mean, we're not challenging that. Nevertheless, I mean, it's integrating intermittent electricity from wind and sun into all sectors, residential, industrial, commercial. It's a challenge. And this challenge has its limit because of peak daily or seasonal because of the peak issue, daily or seasonal, because it's tough to store electricity, and because clearly it would be inefficient and unaffordable to overinvest into production or networks. So, I mean, clearly molecule has its place into this sector integration. Maybe I can give two examples. One for residential. If we consider hybrid heat pumps, it's probably a clever way to have a response into this sector integration. Hybrid heat pump, it's a combination of a heat pump using electricity and a small boiler, so using gas, and we hope biomethane. So at mid-season, you would use the heat pump, and so mainly use electricity, and so avoiding CO2 emissions. But at winter, you would use your boiler using biomethane, which would clearly reduce the need of investments on the grid network. So that is a clever way for optimizing the sector integration. And of course, biomethane also has its place in hard to abate sectors. And as I've mentioned, we have many clients now telling us that the best solution is biomethane to contribute to this problem.
Pierre, I would like to stay with you. We have another question from Leonardo Barreto. He's asking, what are the problems with the connection policies for biomethane plants? I think that he's referring to the gas package. Pierre, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure I see exactly the question. Well, of course, there is an issue which has to be solved, which is this right to inject, which has been dealt in France. I don't have the full picture of all countries, but what is really important, of course, is to find a solution so that a producer, well, of course, you need an economic test. It's not for any solution. You always need to have an economic test, but a producer can be guaranteed to have access to the grid, and so that he will have an outlet for his production.
All right. Thanks a lot for bringing in indeed the right to inject, which is quite an important piece, and it's a quite important advancement also in political terms. Anastasia, back to you. I see questions, again, questions regarding the capacity level. And here attendees are asking whether the interactive map allows to select plants by capacity.
This feature was not included, considering that there are a wide range of capacities, but we can consider this if we get a lot of feedback that people want this. We would consider adding this as well.
Very well. I also received a question regarding the main drivers for big differences in average biomethane plant sizes in Europe. I don't know whether you want to comment, or otherwise, yeah, go ahead, Anastasia.
Well, of course, I don't have the precise statistics why people build this plant over that plant, but I would assume because it's specific integration to local economy. So the demand for specific size plant also depends on the region where it's built. So we see in France that this is a specific market for that. In Germany, we have different markets. So I'd assume that is the main reason. I don't know about the investment. Again, that would be interesting to look at, but I cannot comment on that. But probably there are some policy drivers as well. What is more finance, for example?
Thanks. Again, a question on a specific country. In Greece, we see no biogas plants. Is a matter of data or collection? I think the answer is similar to Poland, but go ahead, Anastasia.
Yes, we don't have the Greece, you said, right?
Yes.
We don't have data for Greece, and I cannot, how to say this, promise either way. I cannot say that there are no biomethane plants, but we don't have any data about any biomethane plants in Greece.
Okay, and again on another country. So Germany, it remains the leader in terms of biomethane production, but we have seen that there has been a bit of a stall in terms of the growth in the past year. Hervé Meyer asks, why is that?
Well, we of course can consider the international problems right now. And why they can be stalled. However, I don't think, well, from the information I have, they're not actually stalling whatsoever. I received the feedback from our German data source, and they said that there are a lot of plans in the works in 2024. So we actually expect a big increase by the next map. But between these two data points, in fact, yes, there were not a difference between a number of plans.
Okay, very good. I think that's we can maybe close this second Q&A. We have still an open 75 questions, which means that we will have a lot of follow-up to do. One thing that I can say is that, first of all, I would like to actually thank all the participants for their active participation. But also for the future, I would like to ask you to keep an open door for cooperation. So if you see that in this current map, we have omitted some data that you think should be there, please do not hesitate to contact our technical team, and we will make sure that we will consider this data for the future so that our analysis can become more and more granular and more and more accurate as well. I think that at this point, we can move to a concluding keynote. So we have with us our CEO, Harmen Dekker, that will tell us also how we can use this data, how we can get better, and what are actually the policy and market drivers that we need into the future to make sure that we achieve a higher portion of biomethane and that this can contribute to climate mitigation and energy security. Harmen, please.
Thanks, Julia. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have been attending this webinar, which launched the newest biomethane map and the investment outlook. And in the past hour, we explored the remarkable advancements over the past years of our sector and the positive investment outlook. What I would like to do is briefly summarize the trends and then offer some strategic recommendations to ensure we can continue and accelerate this upward trend. So first of all, the overall trend is positive, but some leading markets are slowing down. We are also still far off from the 35 BCM target. Beside the fast increase of some markets, slowdown of others gives us a wake-up call to step up our activities. But on the other side, with a sharp increase of 32% in Europe and even 37% in the EU 27, and with a production capacity of 6.4 billion cubic meters in Europe, this is a milestone moment. And it serves like, if you can see it like as an appetizer for what we can contribute to in the future. Also good to realize is that the environmental benefits of the sector, what we are offering to date is profound. With 29 million tons of CO2 savings and 800,000 tons of organic fertilizers, the impact is already noticeable within Europe. And on the energy side, it provides 5 million households of renewable energy. Or if you translate it different, to 145,000 long-haul heavy-duty trucks which are fully decarbonized. And this last important item, the overall private investments are sharply on the rise with 25 billion euros set aside to accelerate the growth. And that is very positive news. All these achievements are great, but the market needs strong support to sustain this acceleration. Our sector is unique. It's fully European own sustainable energy provided by European technology. It provides jobs, secures our technology, contributes to our energy transition, and offers all at the same time soil restoration with organic fertilizers on top of that. The good news is it's not rocket science. No imports are required. It is an independent source of energy in Europe, but it does require focused effort to get there. So let me offer some 4 main recommendations. First of all, let's de-risk investments. And one crucial item into that is provide long-term binding targets towards 2040 and 2050. Those trajectories are crucial to bolster confidence and investments. We must ensure that the demand pool is also in place from all end-use sectors, helping the investments and acceleration of the sector. We must also ensure solid planning frameworks and long-term regulatory stability to de-risk investments. If we then look to the right-hand side of this slide, it is good to create biomethane ecosystems. What we mean with that, biomethane is at the heart of a circular Europe, and we need to create clustered biomethane ecosystems with state-of-the-art production facilities, combined with streamlined permitting. Create synergies between waste and residue handling and use of organic fertilizers and the combination with ecological transition. Then if you go to the left bottom side, it is very obvious that we need to complete the internal market for biomethane and ensure fast implementation of the hydrogen and decarbonized gas market package. Top of that, we need to solve the national cross-border trading hurdles which exist at the moment and also harmonize the various standards and regulations. Last but not least, we need to unlock a stable flow of investment. With that, we can work towards a biomethane accelerator, which unlocks a stable flow of investments and support for producers and users alike. We must ensure that the approach to the biogas under the taxonomy is covered under one economic activity, covering production, upgrading, gasification, and methanation technologies. We must recognize the full spectrum of activities to ensure stable and attractive investment environment. So if we really want to unlock Europe's own sustainable energy, in which, in fact, we are leading worldwide, a lot of work still needs to be done to create an affordable, sustainable, and energy-secure Europe. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Harmen, for this. And as we move to conclusions, before you close your connection, please take your pencil or your Outlook calendar and put in your agenda 2 appointments. The first is the next webinar, Dig Deep. Well, we'll be enriching our mapping exercise. We actually have inventoried all the e-methane plants that are operational in Europe, and we will be disclosing this important piece of data. EBA is working quite a lot to ensure that there is a good technological diversification to make sure that biomethane is available at scale for the future. And secondly, if you haven't yet, please do register to the European Biomethane Week that will take place from the 21st to the 25th of October and in Brussels on the 23rd and 24th of October 2024. There are a lot of activities that you can engage with and you can participate to: Inspiration Challenge, awards, and photo contest. So please do visit our website and participate into this. Finally, thanks to all the partners and to the members that opened the databases to the benefit of the European sector. And also thanks a lot to our partners, Gas Infrastructure Europe, for the cooperation, and NG to give us a taste of the ambition that you will have in the future. Thanks again. We can close it here today, and have a very nice rest of the day. Bye-bye.